On a quiet Sunday morning, America thought it was safe, but within minutes, the sky above Hawaii turned into hell. December 7th, 1941. The sun had barely risen over the calm waters of Pearl Harbor. Sailors laughed on battleships. Some were eating breakfast, others were writing letters home, and across Hawaii, it looked like just another peaceful Sunday morning. Nobody imagined that one of the deadliest attacks in American history was already moving toward them through the clouds above the Pacific Ocean. Then, someone looked up. Tiny black dots appeared in the sky. At first, nobody panicked because many believed they were American aircraft returning to base. But seconds later, the truth became horrifyingly clear. Japanese warplanes suddenly dived toward the harbor, and the first bombs exploded across Pearl Harbor. Massive fireballs erupted from the battleships below. The ground shook violently. Men were thrown into the ocean. Smoke swallowed the sky, and sirens screamed across the island as chaos consumed Hawaii in seconds. In less than 2 hours, the United States would be dragged into World War II. Before Pearl Harbor, most Americans wanted nothing to do with another global war. History remembers moments like these, and so do we. Subscribe for more. Impact changed the world forever. The memories of World War I were still painful, and millions of people believed America should stay out of foreign conflicts. But while Americans hoped for peace, the world was becoming more dangerous every year. In Europe, Adolf Hitler's Germany was conquering nation after nation, while across Asia, the Japanese Empire was rapidly expanding its power. Japan wanted control of the Pacific, but standing in its way was the United States. America controlled vital trade routes and possessed enormous industrial strength. When the United States placed heavy oil restrictions on Japan, Japanese leaders feared their empire would slowly collapse because without oil, their ships, tanks, and aircraft would eventually stop moving. Japanese commanders believed they had only two choices left: surrender their ambitions or strike America before America became impossible to defeat. They chose war. Far away from Hawaii, Japanese Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto began planning one of the most dangerous surprise attacks in military history. Yamamoto understood something many Japanese leaders ignored. He knew America was incredibly powerful. America had giant factories, massive shipyards, huge oil reserves, and a population capable of producing weapons on a scale Japan could never match in a long war. So Yamamoto believed Japan needed one devastating attack powerful enough to cripple the United States Pacific Fleet before America could fully react. The target was Pearl Harbor, the giant American naval base in Hawaii. The mission was prepared in complete secrecy. Japanese pilots trained for months while aircraft carriers silently crossed the Pacific Ocean without revealing their location. Radio signals were minimized, and many sailors were never told the full details of the operation. As the fleet moved closer to Hawaii, thousands of American soldiers slept peacefully, completely unaware that war was racing toward them across the ocean. Before dawn on December 7th, Japanese aircraft began launching from their carriers in the darkness. One after another, fighters, bombers, and torpedo planes climbed into the cold morning sky. More than 350 aircraft headed directly toward Hawaii, while below them, Pearl Harbor remained calm and unprepared. At around 7:48 in the morning, the first wave arrived. Japanese planes screamed down from the clouds, and machine guns instantly opened fire across the harbor. Bombs exploded everywhere. American sailors ran across burning decks while smoke and fire covered the sky. One of the main targets was Battleship Row, where massive American battleships sat side by side like perfect targets waiting to be destroyed. Then came one of the deadliest moments of the entire attack. A Japanese bomb pierced the deck of the USS Arizona, and seconds later, the battleship exploded in a catastrophic fireball. The blast was so powerful it shook the harbor itself. More than 1,000 sailors were trapped inside the ship, and many never escaped. Even today, the wreck of the USS Arizona still rests beneath the waters of Pearl Harbor as a memorial to those who died that morning. Across the harbor, American forces desperately tried to fight back, but the surprise attack had created total confusion. Many anti-aircraft guns were locked, ammunition was difficult to reach, and American aircraft parked at airfields were lined up wingtip to wingtip, making them easy targets for Japanese fighters. Planes burst into flames before they could even take off. Yet despite the chaos, many Americans fought with incredible bravery. Sailors rescued wounded men from burning corridors, while medics treated survivors as explosions continued around them. Some anti-aircraft crews kept firing even while their ships slowly sank beneath their feet. The harbor became a nightmare of smoke, screaming metal, fire, and death. Oil spread across the water and ignited, forcing surviving sailors to swim through burning fuel to escape. Nobody knew how many Japanese aircraft were still coming, or whether an invasion of Hawaii would follow next. For ordinary Americans trapped inside Pearl Harbor, it felt like the end of the world. News of the attack spread across the United States at unbelievable speed. Families gathered around radios, while entire cities fell silent listening to emergency broadcasts. Americans could not believe that their country had been attacked so suddenly. The numbers were devastating. More than 2,400 Americans had been killed, while thousands more were wounded. Battleships burned in the harbor, and military bases across Hawaii were left shattered. Across America, anger exploded overnight. Young men rushed to recruitment centers and lines formed outside military offices as people demanded revenge. Pearl Harbor united the United States in a way nothing else could. The next day, President Franklin D. Roosevelt entered Congress and delivered one of the most famous speeches in American history. "A date which will live in infamy," he declared, as the chamber fell silent. Roosevelt described the attack as deliberate and treacherous before asking Congress for a declaration of war against Japan. The response was immediate. America was now officially at war. Soon, Germany and Italy also declared war on the United States, transforming World War II into a truly global conflict. At first, Japan celebrated Pearl Harbor as a massive victory because much of the American Pacific Fleet had been damaged or destroyed. But there was one enormous problem the Japanese had not fully realized. America's most important aircraft carriers were not present at Pearl Harbor during the attack, meaning they survived completely untouched. Even more dangerous for Japan was the fact that America's industrial power remained intact. Factories across the United States immediately shifted into wartime production. Millions of workers began building ships, tanks, aircraft, weapons, and ammunition at astonishing speed. Japan had awakened an industrial giant. Admiral Yamamoto himself reportedly feared this exact outcome because he understood that Japan might win battles early in the war, but defeating the full power of the United States would be nearly impossible. Behind all the explosions and destruction were ordinary human beings. Teenagers, fathers, brothers, and friends suddenly found themselves trapped inside one of history's most shocking attacks. Many survivors later said the sound stayed with them forever. The explosions, the screaming metal, the aircraft engines roaring overhead. Rescue teams searched burning ships for survivors, while hospitals overflowed with wounded soldiers. Pearl Harbor ended America's isolation from the war and pushed the nation into a conflict that would reshape the modern world forever. Today, Pearl Harbor remains one of the most important moments in American history. Every year, ceremonies honor the victims and survivors, while visitors from around the world travel to Hawaii to stand above the sunken USS Arizona Memorial. Because Pearl Harbor was more than just a military attack. It was the moment America realized the world had changed forever. On that quiet Sunday morning in 1941, thousands of Americans believed they were safe. But within minutes, fire filled the sky above Hawaii, ships sank beneath the harbor, lives ended, and a sleeping giant awakened. The attack on Pearl Harbor lasted less than 2 hours, but its impact changed the world forever.